Hello and welcome to my brand new series, Beginner's Guide to Git, GitHub and Open Source. I am super excited for this because, as you already know, the month of October, the festival of open source and the Hacktoberfest has already started. It's going to be super interesting. So in this series, we are going to learn Git, GitHub and the concepts of open source completely from scratch. So giving you a quick overview of what are we going to discuss in this series is going to be divided into around 10 videos where we are going to discuss why do we care about open source and why open source could be beneficial for you. Then we are going to have a look at GitHub, how does GitHub look and what all features can it provide you. Then we are going to look at what is a version control, what do we mean by version control, and then we are going to discuss about Git. We are going to get started with Git with a little bit of inner functioning on how does Git works from inside. You must have seen a lot of crash courses on Git, but this is going to be completely different because the difference is, first, before getting you started with Git commands, I'm going to tell you how Git internally works and why do we need Git version control system and why did Git become so famous. Then we are going to go over some basic Git commands as a quick crash course for you to get started with Git. Then we are going to have our first open source contribution together. I'm going to tell you how can you contribute to open source community. Then we are going to do an open source contribution live, which basically means I'm going to tell you how can we find the issues and then how can we start contributing. It's going to be an actual code contribution. The first one is just going to be a sample code contribution. The second one is going to be an actual contribution. And then finally, we are going to see what are the sources from where you can find open source work. And in the final video, I am going to discuss with you the ethics of Hacktoberfest and what all things should you follow to make sure that you are following the community guidelines. This is going to be super interesting. If you haven't already, do follow me on GitHub. It's github.com/madhavbehel. I am pretty active with open source projects and a lot of open source contributions. So yes, if you like my projects, do give them a star. I would really like it if you give a quick star to these projects. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/theleanprogrammer. So let's get started. It's going to be super interesting. So in this video, I am going to quickly discuss with you what do we mean by open source and why open source is for you. So let's get started. So firstly, what do we mean by open source? I think the name itself is sufficient to make you understand what is open source. Open source is a type of computer software in which the source code is released under a license which the copyright holder grants the user rights to study, change, distribute, So such a big definition, right? Such a big definition. And a lot of beginners and a lot of people get scared by it, that what actually is open source. So let me tell you in clear words, open source is any software that you can see on GitHub, GitLab or any other version control service. It's any software whose source code is available to public. But just make sure to focus on one point here, that is in which the source code is released under a license. So the thing is, the people confuse that open source is a software which anyone can modify and use any way they like. No, that is not true. The thing is, open source is just a software whose source code is publicly available. But that does not mean you can go and just use it as you want. In most of the cases, yes, you can. In most of the cases, there are licenses like MIT and all. We'll probably talk about them later. Or if you have any doubts in the licenses part, you can reach out to me. So a quick summary is just this much, that open source software is any software whose source code is in public but released under a license, and there are various licenses which gives various rights to study, change and distribute softwares. There are licenses which gives you all the rights to use the software in any way you want, and there are some licenses which restricts various usage. Now a quick question from you. We all know, most of us know, that we cannot directly earn from open source software. But then why do we actually care about open source? Why is there so much hype about open source software when there's no one giving you salary in doing the code for some particular project? If you're working for a company and if you're working on some project for some particular company, they are going to give you salary. But in open source, nobody's going to give you any sort of salary to work on any project. Then why do we actually care about open source? So first of all, a general mindset that we have that we do not earn directly from open source software is kind of false and misleading. Well, yes, there is no direct income from, and there is no stable income from open source. Stable in the sense, you will not get monthly salary from that. But yes, there are a lot of ways you can earn from open source software as well. So we are going to discuss exactly about, firstly, why do we actually care about open source. So first of all, always remember that open source is not only about money. It's not about money. And second thing is, we are going to see some ways on how you can earn from your open source software. So open source software, why do we care about open source software? A quick answer is that open source is in your best interest, whether you are an individual or an organization or a small business or a non-profit, because of these reasons. Now make sure to understand why I mentioned these things separately. So a lot of people confuse, is open source software only for big companies who can afford open source? Is it only for individuals? Is it only for students? No, open source is for everyone. Open source does not care if you are an individual or you are an organization or you are a small business or a non-profit or any other entity. It is for you. Why? Because people from all over the world can come and contribute to your code. The quality of your code will be best maintained, because if your project goes very successful, and if your project is something really interesting that people would want to come to contribute to, just imagine there will be a lot of people coming to contribute to your code. It will be publicly available, so code quality will automatically be maintained. It reduces the duplication of efforts. You will not have to reinvent the wheel. If you will always end up using a lot of libraries which are already open source and created by other open source developers. So it reduces duplication of efforts. You won't have to create every library and everything from scratch. You can use the efforts of others to build on top of it, and to build something useful on top of it. You can showcase your talent and competence. Trust me, a lot of interviewers these days actually look at your GitHub profile and see your open source projects and your open source contributions. It really shows your talent. And the best thing about it is lift the community. So it's not always about people from all over the world will come and contribute to the code. You will be among them as well. You will be going to someone else's project to contribute to their code. And by doing that, you are a part of an amazing community who is upskilling themselves and who are improving the whole tech community. You will be lifting the community. Always remember that we rise by lifting others, and that's the best thing. And the second thing is, this is false. So whenever someone tells you that there is no income in open source, this is false. This is completely false. You can definitely earn from open source as well. There are multiple ways. First of all, let's say donations. There are a lot of people who might be willing to donate. There are a lot of companies who might be willing to donate you if your project is actually helpful to them or to other people. And then GitHub has also released their own feature which is called GitHub Sponsor. So if someone likes your project, he would sponsor you. Then paid programs like GSOC. You must be knowing about these paid programs. I don't need to go over the list of all these programs because there are a lot of them. Outreachy, GSOC. GSOC is paid. You get a stipend and you get a very good amount monthly if you are able to get into GSOC. Then promotions. If your open source software is getting a lot of attention, companies and small businesses and individuals as well might reach out to you to promote their project as a sponsor. Licensing and paid support, maybe paid courses. Let's say you released a new framework of some kind, you can release paid courses around it, and so on. So yes, definitely you can monetize from open source as well. So simply by open source, I mean each and every project that you can find on GitHub, of course, which is not private, because if it was private, you cannot find it on GitHub, is an open source project. So therefore, to make open source contribution, you just need to find a project that suits you and an issue to work upon. So once you find a project, you can either improve, add features on it, you can fix an issue or an existing bug, and that is how you can improve the softwares. So I repeat myself, open source is love. Yes, I'm happy to spread this feeling of love. So the more you contribute, the more awareness and ideas you get. By doing projects in collaboration with some super amazing people, you will also increase your skills. You can't fix a bug, you can always ask for help. Again, lifting the community by and helping others. Always remember that we rise by lifting others. And don't forget about student benefits. Let me come to this. This is the best part. So if you are a student enrolled in any university, you can get offers worth so much. You can see all these offers. There are endless offers that GitHub provides to students. And trust me, the net worth of these projects would be, I'm not sure how much, it would be in hundreds of thousands. So yes, you can get a free 12-month subscription of Canvas Pro Tier. You can get $100 in your DO account, one domain, 1 year domain name .com domain, and so on. There are endless benefits. If you just keep scrolling to the list, there is no end to this list. So that is how open source is going to help you. So next time when someone says that no one can earn directly from open source, should we even care about it? Yes, you should care about it. So that's it for the first video. See you in the next video. In the next video, we are going to discuss about, we are going to have a quick look at GitHub. How does GitHub look, and what all features does it provide you? If you like this video, don't forget to share and comment on it so that it can reach more and more people.